squatting. I'm going to call that a date. I'm sorry. My name's Nancy Burkhalter, and I'm a real alcoholic. Because of a loving God and the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, people just like you. I've been sober since November the 7th, 1981, and I got to tell you something. It's a great day to be sober. It's a great day to be sober. It's a great day to celebrate our common problem and our common solution. It's a great day for that. And wow, I'm glad you're going to hear a lot about me. She said I had the rest of the afternoon. And that's not what you said, Polly? Oh. No, really, I brought a watch, but there is a problem. There's no battery, apparently. Okay. I may or may not, I just do that to give the newcomer hope. When I got here, what you're going to hear about, I hope what you're going to hear about is that I really brought you nothing to work with. I mean, I was so arrogant, and my arrogance entered the room long before I did. And now, by the age of 10, I knew I was brilliant, but, well, that part's actually true. And there's a difference, though, about needing to believe something, whether it's true or not. When you know that, as everybody who's spoken has told us, when you know you're not enough. If you were enough, your parents would come home. All that. But anyway, quit moving and not telling you, kind of thing. So I didn't appreciate anything. And I am being as sincere as I can be. I don't know how to thank you enough today. There aren't words to say thank you. Not only for inviting me, Polly, but you brought some of my heroes, literally, to be here. And I'm not going to tell you who my heroes were when I was growing up. Well, some of you would not know who they are. Anybody heard of Annie Oakley? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. But I do have to say this. Hillary, thank you. I used to make people cry for much worse things, but thank you. I got the privilege. I didn't know, she sort of surprised me there. Perhaps it was obvious. I got the privilege of singing that song for her when she talked in Oklahoma. And so, but I'm glad I don't know how to thank you for one more day of doing the things that we do that literally make life just beyond our wildest dreams. Okay, they do tell me I'm pretty sick. Well, I've known that for about 6 years, okay? I'm not going to tell you exactly, but it's between 39 and a Walmart greeter, okay? But the truth is that Polly said, you just seems to have so much energy this weekend. I got to tell you, are you kidding me? It's such a privilege to be here. It is such a privilege to be here. And I get energy that I don't have. And I thank you for that, too. Because I am so glad to be here. And thank you to everybody who's already spoken. And thank you. I need every single word. And something I'll piggyback on Carla is that it's just our turn to get to speak today. To get to talk about our experience in the steps. But yeah, you need to go home and you sit down with that person that you've chosen. I'm glad that I love hearing what other people are doing or what's important to them. Because I love Alcoholics Anonymous. And I love the family group of Al-Anon. I love them. And Alateen, I sponsor an Alateen right now. And I stayed on my knees for 2 weeks because I thought I'm going to ruin her whole life. I was afraid she wanted to talk about sex. ever. You know? So anyway, but I love it all. I love it all. And so I want to do whatever you ask me to do. I'll do whatever you ask me to do today. And today I get to tell you a little bit about step 6 and 7, but I am, as the other speakers have done so well, tell you a little bit about how I developed those character defects. You know, that step 0 to step 6, as quickly as I can. Because if I ever think for a second I'm not alcoholic, and I have thought that, when we walked into this room, the first thing I thought is, I hope I look taller on those screens. True story. Now, some of the stuff you're going to hear today, I wish I was making up, but this really is the truth, that what I'm about to talk about. Grew up in alcoholism, and I know that's not unusual in this room, but I need to briefly talk about that because I realized, literally standing behind a podium one time, how much not only it influenced me get into recovery, but how it influences my recovery today, even though I have a new pair of glasses. Okay, my earliest memory, seriously, I was about 10, and I thought, man, I'm the smartest person I know, which wasn't hard in my home, but my daddy was an alcoholic. He said he was an alcoholic. My mother was not an Al-Anon, but as my dear friend Ellen says, my mama was an alligator. Okay? They're kind of snappy, and they can track you down. They can track you down. So now that didn't make up a good combination in the kitchen, you know, because my mother would give my daddy good orderly direction, and he would ignore that and go to work. But my daddy drank, I know, and believed to his innermost self, means a lot to us, doesn't it, that term, that he could go to work and stop by the local and have a couple beers and come home. He believed that, and see, I understand it now. I just thought he was pathetic, stupid, and I wouldn't dishonor this podium. You let your imagination go as far past that as you can in terms of what I said to them and what I called them and what I thought about them. Okay? But I just thought, how could I have been born? I hope I'm adopted. You know, I cannot be a part of this family. And so my daddy would go to work, and then the coming home part was pretty tough on him, okay? So he would stop by and he'd begin to drink. You know how I know I grew up in alcoholism? Because if my daddy didn't drive into the driveway at 5 o'clock, you know, when you're supposed to sit down and ask each other how your day was and eat a nice dinner, my mother's whole personality changed, right? And she'd go to the phone and she'd start calling, and she'd say, "Is Ray Burkhalter?" Now, she's not calling the pediatrician. She's calling Joe's, Bloody Bucket, whatever, you know. I know it's hard to tell, but I'm from Texas. I want an accent, Amanda. I wish I had an accent. Okay, I'm back. No, anyway. So she would start calling these places, and they'd go, "No, he's not here. No, he's not here. No, he's not here." And so now, stay with me. Now we know where he isn't, but it doesn't get an alligator down. She'd say, "Get in the car, because we're going to go get him." Okay, now I got to go fast. So we get to the bar, and I'd go in and say, "Mama wants you to come home." He'd say, "No, you go tell Mama, no, you're going to come home, no," and you know. Now, I can laugh about it today, and I know one of the speakers has said this. We laugh today because you taught us what to do to heal. It wasn't funny then. It wasn't funny, and so we'd get my daddy to come on out of the bar, and my mother would say, "I want you to ride home with your daddy." Now, she has no idea what he's had to drink, how long he's been there, but what did she know? My daddy believed in his innermost self he could drink and still be a part of his family. What she knew is, if I'm in the car, he will come home. And she needed that as much as he needed a drink. I didn't get that. I just thought they were pathetic. And I treated them as though I thought they were pathetic. So That's called alcoholism. It's called alcoholism. So, but again, I know for a fact that I got this idea in my head, and I don't know that any of them ever said it, but that I would not be enough ever. No matter what I did, I would not be enough. And but I'm one of those alcoholics who, when I stepped out the door, I acted bulletproof. I mean, I did not cry. I did not. I'm telling you, I wouldn't have known a feeling if it slapped me. I couldn't. I wasn't going to. I don't want to go. First of all, I'm certainly not going to ever get married. I don't want to track you down, and I don't cook for people I love. So I'm just like, I can't do any of that. There was not, I'm sorry, but there was not one piece of that family thing that made sense to me. Nothing. So, and you know what you can do? You know what that means? You just shut it down. You just shut it down. And I am going to be talking to you about, as these things are happening, I'm telling you, I'm not drinking. I'm not somebody who drank early on. I'm not stupid. That's crazy. I'm not going to drink. You know, and so anyway, so I went through school. I did well in school. I was an athlete. I went to college. I was an athlete there. And in college was the first time I really began to have some relationships, in quotes, really kind of relationships. That meant I'll do anything you ask me to do if you won't go away. That was a relationship. You know, they were all pretty drive-by experiences, but I'll do anything you want. But I still haven't taken a drink. I still haven't taken a drink because drinking's stupid. See, my mother taught me. The reason we punished my daddy every day when he'd get home, because she had some really good punishments. Because she believed absolutely if you punish an alcoholic enough, and if you punish them right, they will stop drinking. But you know, it's funny today, but think about the desperation of those thoughts. I know I can drink. I know I can keep him from drinking. And that's all I knew. So I controlled people. For 4 years in college, I'm lucky to be alive because for those 4 years I was in undergraduate school, I punished people who drank. I did. And I had some good ones. Okay? And I had a clear conscience about that. But guess what? Just because you're not drinking, I began to do for you what you should do for yourself. I began to say yes when I meant no. I began to get involved with things that were none of my business. Sober. I did all of that. But I actually absolutely believe that I've been alcoholic from the get-go. I needed a drink. For some reason, judging my parents like I did probably kept me from drinking any sooner than I did. So I punished those people, right? And so that's called alcoholism. And it really was at that time all I knew. I don't want to forget that because it so involves 6 and 7 for me. These are all the tools I'm collecting. You know, controlling you, being in charge. Okay, so then I went to graduate school. Of course I did. Let's remember, I am just right brilliant, you know. And I had a lot of information to give to you. Because when you're not using it, it's real fresh. You know, it's like it was solid information I had not used. And I mean, I did relationship counseling. I don't know if I've ever said this, but I've never been in one. But I knew if he or she was not treating you right. Yeah. So what happened? One Sunday afternoon, those people I punished for 4 years came to my apartment. I'm living in some singles apartment in Houston, Texas, and I'm teaching, which means I'm changing the course of education in America. And if you're alcoholic, you go, yeah, I know. Because I got to believe that in order to go in the door. Because I know I'm not enough. Okay, so all that's going on. I mean, and so they found out that there's a party going down, going at the singles pool every day of the weekends. And they're knocking on my door and saying, Nancy, we want to go to these parties. Now, I know now they just wanted my apartment number because they didn't expect me to drink because I'd punished them for 4 years for drinking. And I said, let's party, because I didn't want them to go away. And I'd needed a drink for a very long time. Now, why do I believe that God puts that on my heart to tell you as quickly as I know how? Every time I get the privilege to speak, because remember, from birth until that moment, I knew drinking is bad and people who drink are very bad and they must be punished. That's all the information I had. And in 1 second's time, I said, let's party. And I'm telling you this. I have a sponsor in my life. Her name's Gail D. My home group's Unity Group in Denton, Texas. Oh, by the way, I opened my home to come in for people to come in and study the literature. Now, I'm not breaking my arm, patting myself on the back. Here's what I'm trying to say. I had all that self-knowledge from birth, and I took a drink in 1 second's time. So I'm here to tell you, if I'm not, when Polly calls, she could ask me to do anything. But if I'm not calling my sponsor, whether she needs it or not, if I'm not... That's how I started. I'm telling you what I brought you. If I'm not calling my sponsor, showing up at my meetings, taking commitments, praying on my knees, studying the literature, all of them, I'm afraid I'll say, let's party. And I believe that to my innermost soul today. I believe that. And so, I drank and I drank and drank. I'm going to tell you about my last drunk because you'll enjoy it more than I did. And because I just want to tell you that to qualify, like somebody said, and then I want to move on. But I took that drink. And I probably should back up just a tad, but I took a drink, and see, for 4 years I'd been punishing them by doing some horrible things, right? And to them, thinking they were going to get it. And that night, since I'm drinking, I didn't much care what they did. I didn't care about getting them home safely. I didn't care that they were passing out. I didn't care that they went home with people they did not know. Okay? These are things I tried to prevent for a long time. Getting them all back in my car, right? And you have to remember, I am older, and my car was the length of this room. You know? Kind of beat up when I got it, okay? So anyway, I didn't care that night. And I can remember literally going, oh, it's about 9:30 or whatever. And I got to go back to my apartment because I got to go to work the next day. Because I'm responsible. And I've taken this drink, and then all of a sudden I'm in my own apartment, taking off my own clothes that time. And I'm looking right into a mirror, and I remember this. God gives you those memories. And I remember going, I think you even drink better than other people. Now, that's funny to you tonight, but let me tell you this afternoon. But let me tell you something. See, I got to believe that because I'm already wrong. I already know that I am wrong. That I am not somebody who should drink. But I got to believe that it's because my dad was pathetic. It was because these other people are not educated as I am. Okay? And so I'm making an excuse. You know, we're the best about telling a story, and we're first in line to believe it. And that's what I had to do immediately. So now I have fed what I believe in alcohol. But I'm not going to do any of those ridiculous things that my dad or some of you did. I mean, I am not drinking and driving. That's pathetic. I'm still going to parties, and if I thought you were going to do it, I'd call the police ahead of time. I did that on a friend one time. I knew, yeah. Sick puppy. A lot of character defects just because I believed it's all I had to survive. I believed it. Okay, so I'm not going to, I have standards. I have morals. Apparently my dad couldn't spell that, whatever. And what happened to me one time, remember when I used to be brilliant, now I think in pretty simple stories. But it was like as though these were my my rules, my standards, my morals. And I wasn't going to break them. Drink and drive? No way. Take that morning drink? Are you kidding me? I'd watch my dad in the morning sometime. I thought, there's not a chance I'm doing any of that. And I didn't right up until I did. No, you know how I can see it coming? Sometimes you can see it coming. Oh, I'm not going to do it again. And that's a perfect picture for me today. Because I didn't know that my mind, my keen alcoholic mind, was going to say something like, I believe you even drive better once you've been drinking. You just don't seem as tense, you know? Not uptight when you're driving. And, yeah. Some people use one lane. Anyway. Because I'm drinking and driving. I remember where I lived in Austin, Texas, Holy Land. I remember literally needing that drink when I got up, and there it was on the nightstand. I don't want to forget these things. I do not want to forget these things. And I couldn't believe it, and I'm not going to do it again. And so I'm drinking, and I began, my last drunk really that I want to tell you about sort of sums up how everything happened, you know. What the end looked like for me. Because I compromised myself in every way that I would have bet you anything that I owned that I would never do. Okay? Well, here's what happened. I'm living in this beautiful home in North Austin. You know, there was a beautiful landscape yard, a hot tub in the backyard, and over the patio there's music piped in. And then there's the Mercedes 450 SL red convertible in the garage. And the custom van in the driveway because that pulled the boat. And, my Chevette was on the curb. my little Chevrolet Chevette, I could roll the window down from the driver's seat, right? I didn't own any of that. But I might not have mentioned that when I was out in public. Okay? I gave the illusion that all that was mine. Because what that's saying is there was nothing authentic about me. Nothing. I did not know how to let you see me as I am today. Certainly before 6 and 7. I couldn't show you who I was. I just wanted you to just wait, because I'm going to be something. And I'm going to quit doing that, and I'm going to start doing this. Because I had no idea that I had no tools to do that. Because I really did. Education, I've got a lot of degrees, but there are other things that have a lot of degrees too, and I'm not going to mention them. Okay? But the truth is, I was desperate to believe that. What is it Margot says? I'm educated well beyond my intelligence. Okay? Kind of thing. But I depended on that. I was desperate. It's one thing to believe something or be told something. No, I was desperate for you to think of me as superior intellectually. Like I said, I could probably convince you I'm taller if you'd give me a little more time. Because I have this need to be something else. This need to do that. So I'm living in this environment that I might not have mentioned. I'm just renting a room kind of thing. We decided to have a dinner party. And everybody, it's a group of women. So you know, that's stressful. You're going to have your first dinner party. So I was stressed out. I mean, what if nobody comes to your party? We had it catered. Okay, somebody else paid for it. No, this party is, it's set up. Open bar, food, everything, right? And at about 10 o'clock in the morning, I was so stressed out, I decided I'm just going to take a couple of drinks to smooth out. I never used the word drunk when I referred to myself. Just going to get smooth. And I was told the next day that about 2:30, I didn't care who came to this stupid party. Did not care. I was very, very inebriated. But apparently people came. Yeah. Apparently people came, and apparently we had dinner. And then we went out on the patio to dance or whatever, apparently. And I decided to get in the hot tub. Not good when you've been drinking since 10:30 in the morning. So, but when I got in the hot tub, a certain song came on, and I had a flashback. And the flashback quickly was that I was in San Antonio at a bar, and we're dancing, because I discovered for the first time that when I've had some drinks, 4, 5 or so drinks, I've become quite the dancer. I mean, I had no idea. I mean, I was good. And so, that's why when Amanda said, let's dance, I thought, oh God, with my clothes on, But anyway, so I'm dancing, and the music stops, and I went, oh, that's okay, I've got rhythm in my soul. And I'm dancing by myself. Then I look around, and I mean by myself, because they've asked everybody to leave the floor. And apparently they were also talking about me. So, because they were going to have this these people were there doing a bodybuilding international thing, and I mean they had trophies like huge, and they want to watch them rather than me. 34 years sober, I still haven't figured out why. So, anyway. Okay, so they do their bodybuilding routine, right? Okay, now we're back in the hot tub. And the same song comes on that they used for their bodybuilding routine. Yeah. And I became Don't get me started, okay? Here's the thing. It's a pretty funny story, right? Okay? The next day I had to be told, by the way. And I can laugh at that today, but let me tell you the part that I don't like talking about very much. I had family there. I was a public school teacher at the time. And I had colleagues there. And I didn't care. So you think of any character defect you can bring up, and underneath fear, everybody's talked about that. There's a fear that I'm not going to fit in. I wanted to be noticed. I was desperate for attention. And one for me that was, I don't care. Can you imagine getting to that level? Now again, I can laugh. It is a crazy story, and I haven't been a bodybuilder since 1981. I mean, I can't even get me to. No. Well, anyway, so, but I had to be told what it was. I said, well, was there some rippling? He said, yeah, there just weren't any muscle groups involved. So, think about that. When you get to that place where you're willing to compromise yourself anyway. Oh, I might have not been in the hot tub. I might have been naked. Texas, we say naked. Naked on the deck of the, yeah. Yeah. And can you imagine, see, if I invited you to my house for a dinner party, it's a safe place today. It's a safe place. And I can't, as crazy as that sounds, that is one of the things that's most important to me, maybe. Because you can come and be with me, and it's a safe place. And you're going to be treated with respect. And we're going to care how you feel and how that place, we're about to move on next Thursday. And one of the things that I can't wait to do is to have my AA people come in and put the spirit that's there, that will be there for as long as I take breath, because of people like you are going to be in my home. I don't even know how to feel like that. I don't know how to think of you more than me. No tools. So, someone else thought I had a problem with alcohol. And I want you to know that you have to be pretty clueless. Remember, I thought I was really smart, and I did things, and you would not have known really very much about me. But somebody else said, you've got a problem with alcohol, and there's a solution. And I really did we're the only two in this car. And I thought, this is ridiculous, this is crazy. I have money in the bank, I'm driving a new car, my parents paid for it, but they ruined my whole life. I couldn't even finish a sentence. I could work that in to pass the salt, and my parents ruined my whole life. I could work it in, because if you take responsibility for what's going on, then you take responsibility for the change, right? So, and she said, you know what, there's a meeting, you have a problem with alcohol and there's a solution, and there's a meeting on North Lamar tomorrow night. I can take you, I can meet you there. I cannot go, you cannot go. And, that's a double dog dare right there. And I said, I'll just meet you there. Because now I got to prove her wrong. And that's the only reason I went to my first AA meeting. I'm going to tell you about that real quickly. Again, arrogance from the first meeting I went to last week, if I'm not doing what you asked me to do. Okay? Arrogance will walk in the room first. Now, I know that I went home when I said, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow night. I know that I went home and looked through the closet to see what had just come from the cleaners. I wanted to look good, because I pretty much thought I knew what you were going to look like. And that was very important. And I got there early, because that's what you do kind of for an interview. I'm a professional. And I hope that I didn't, but there is a chance that I had my briefcase with me. There is a chance that I did. Again, funny to you, but so here I am, and I sit down, and I immediately, of course, by the way, I'd gotten another degree in 9 months, okay? So I noticed quickly that there's the big poster with the steps and the big poster with the tradition. So I'm like, probably important. So I began to memorize. I thought, I'm going to memorize the first 4 steps. If there's a question and answer period at the end, I could at least refer to, And if I had my briefcase, I would have had a laser printer thing. Pointer, okay? So, I'm wondering if that's going to happen. Do you see how? I thought I was all that. No, I'm sorry. I acted like I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. Seriously, and I know. So I have to act like I think I'm precious. I have to. I don't have a choice at this point in my life. So I get there now. Now I'm memorizing, but I also can multitask. So I am listening. And the second thing that said at that, the second thing that I remembered that happened at the meeting is Jim. Jim somebody, and he says, my name, in Texas, it's full name and sobriety day. And he says, I'm Jim Smith, and I've been sober since January 3rd, 1971. I went, oh! You can't take back a gasp. You cannot. You can't. And I was like, let me tell you why I gasped. This is November of '81, and they've let that poor boy stay there for 10 years. 10 years without. So I knew I can tutor. I know the first 4 steps already. So, oh yeah. So, Polly's sitting over there with regret. Okay, but let me tell you about the third thing. Remember I told you there are things I didn't want to tell you. Let me tell you about the third thing that happened during that meeting. There was a young lady, what I'm talking about. The room was set up. Somebody else did the chairs. I'd have never volunteered for that. The coffee's made, and somebody's chairing the meeting, and they know what the topic is. And here are these people talking, from their soul and their heart. And this young lady raises her hand, and she's trying to talk, and it gets very, very emotional. So she's crying and trying to talk, and then she'd try to talk, and then she'd cry, which made me very uncomfortable. So I can actually remember this. God did not give me the full memory of this until I was about 5 years sober. I only remembered part of it. I remember going, oh, take a note. I got to talk to her about social skills. Either you talk or you cry. Is that hard? Choose one. Okay, stop. Now I got to tell you what she was talking about. She was probably 30 years old, maybe. She had about 6 months sobriety. Registered nurse. She'd come up upon an accident on I-35 where she watched a baby die. Take a note. See, I hate that. I can laugh too because I have done everything you asked me to do to heal from that. Especially being ready to give up that arrogance and humbly asking for that to happen. But I'm telling you, that is the best I had. Take a note. And I'm not her. I'm not her anymore. And I hope that I don't ever avoid telling that. But the only reason I'm not her, I really don't remember. I know how y'all feel now. You just, okay. Do I finish today? What? Anyway. I'm glad that I didn't bring you anything to work with. I really didn't bring you a lot to work with. But I want to tell you what happened immediately after the meeting. And you could answer the question. Right after amen. 3 people, maybe 6, walked directly up to me because they saw through the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. That magic was in the room. Those people came up and said, we have another meeting here tomorrow night at 7. Sure hope you'll come back. Now that blows my mind today. You saw completely through every defect. It was like this judgment, dishonesty. I may have raised my hand when they asked if anybody had 5 years. I don't know. I mean, there was nothing authentic about me. Nothing. I would have said anything I thought you wanted to hear. There was nothing authentic about me. But then, like I said, they came up and invited me back. Now, I'm not alcoholic. Can't be. And I went back the next night. And then the next night, I remember there being a Saturday morning women's meeting, and I went in. Now, I got there a little late to every meeting, and I left a little early. Now, remember, I think that I'm the social, guru of the universe. I didn't know how to talk to you. I knew how to lecture you. I didn't know how to talk to you. So I would go a little late, and then I'd be driving home. Driving home going, I don't even think they care about me. You'd have had to chase me out of the meeting to say hello, how are you doing? Is this still your first week? That's what we do. But that's what I brought. Well, guess what? I went back and I went back. And I'd love to tell you then I jumped in with both feet and I got a sponsor. For almost 3 years, I did some of the stuff. But I certainly wasn't going to need to do the things you do. And I believe that to my innermost self. And guess what, newcomer? If you do that, you get that. If you do that, you get that. And I'll never forget when I was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and I took my first step, and then I'll get to 6. I'd left one more time. I ran out of the meeting and they stopped me. They began to position people. I know. And says, "What? Just go to lunch with it." And I said, "I can't. I'm going out of town." And I was so brilliant, but I couldn't think of a new excuse every week. Going out of town, going out of town. And so I'm driving, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with Austin, but think of that, the big city, and then you go out towards, and there's all the suburbs. And I lived in South Austin, and I just go down North Lamar, and I just want to go home. I don't need fellowship. I don't need what you have. I'm a cut above. I'm much smarter than this. And besides, I can read. How do I know? Because I edited the first 164 pages of the big book. I did. I'm an old English teacher. So I can read. I did all of that. And I want you to know that, because let me tell you then the transformation. So I'm driving home. All I have to do is turn right on William Cannon, but I'm going on down North Lamar, and it becomes 290. And all of a sudden there's a sign that says, "Welcome to Dripping Springs." Right? And I pull off, and I get out, and I realize my back tires are still in Austin. I get back. It's a crazy story, right? True. And I pulled up, and I got out because I said I was going out of town. And I couldn't lie to you anymore. I could not lie. I had to put my Chevette in Dripping Springs. And I don't want to forget that. I will drive wherever to show my commitment, because that's when I took the first step, and I realized that I was powerless. And they don't leave you there. They don't ever leave us there. And so then all you said is, it's been said better than I can, then you got to come to believe in something. Just come to believe in something that can restore you to sanity. A little upset by the words. I said, "Don't do this, newcomer." I said, "Do you think somebody like me is going to have to do that second step?" And he said, "The world will be better when you do the second step." Yeah. That's what I had to put up with. So, because I was insane. I could be insane about more than one thing per hour. I was so when you were so fake and everything, I'd forget what I'd done over here, and an hour later I've completely changed religions or something. So I want you to know that for somebody like me, I'm glad you gave me time to come to believe, because I'd walked away from the church and I thought God was mad. I really believe that. And then, you know what? When you find a higher power in the second step, it's not so hard to go, "Oh, that you told me to personalize to me." Nobody asks us to work the steps in a general way. They don't. They ask you to work the steps in a very personal way. So I found my own higher power that I really did believe could change these behaviors that I had no tools to change. And then it wasn't so hard to say, "Yes, I do want to offer myself to you. Anything, any construction, you're my contractor. I just want to know that you and I are on the same road. That's all I want to know." And I believe, and I still, every day. And don't you love it when God really knows your heart? He knows, she means that. Because remember, I don't know how to think of you more than me. I don't. And all of a sudden, whatever you ask me to do to strengthen my spiritual condition, I began in the third step. And I absolutely agree with Carl. Then it's like, next, he said, "Professor, what's hard about this? We at once commenced, whatever." And I thought, I know. And I started looking. I am somebody, my friends, who used to lie in her own diary. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to read it. Just change it. Okay? So for me, the first time as an adult I've ever been honest was in that room when I looked at all the pieces that Carla took us through. And then I did sit down with an empty chair and my sponsor, and I told the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And it really might have been the first time. I didn't make it bigger. I didn't make it smaller. And let me tell you what I began to realize. Absolutely. Some things I know for a fact. You can't know until you know, by steps 1 through 5. You can't know until you know. And once you know, you cannot not know. And let me tell you what else I knew. If I could have done better, I would have done better, different. That gives me comfort still today. I could not do it any differently without you. God was skin on them. And that power that I found in the second step, get it? It's just this beautiful tapestry that we're making. When I said, here you go, I believe that you can make these changes for me that I could never make for myself. Okay? So then, and the 6 and 7 are the steps. Why? Because if I can't, thank God my higher power can. Thank God. And so I begin, we're entirely ready for God to remove these defects of character. And now, I ask all these people, well, how do you know entirely? Or is it entirely ready? I mean, I'm just, anybody else, you'll do anything to kind of stall. Because, jealousy. Let me just tell you about jealousy. Jack Claytor, who was one of my heroes that's up in the big meeting, he would say, if you're having trouble letting go of something, look at the underlying need for it. Oh, I thought I would die jealous. I thought there was no way that I could not be jealous. And so he would say, name it what it is. Well, because I always wanted to be just on the surface, I always wanted to say, well, okay, jealousy. He said, no, we got to, I think Mildred may have said, let's get down in what we're really talking about. What's the picture really look like? And I said, well, one of the things I hate most is how I, observe people, perhaps when they don't know that they're being observed. And he said, actually the law calls that stalking. Sounds funny. Sounds like I'm being funny, but it is stalking. It is invading people's privacy. But I believe that if I didn't do that, you're going to cheat on me. And I needed you not to go away. So do you see what I'm saying? Honesty. Apparently, if you don't want to be called a liar, you got to quit lying. Oh, I'll do you one better. She had to say, yeah, even when you're talking to your mother. I would lie thinking it was kind. I don't want to tell you why I really don't want to come this weekend. And I never was actually a very good liar, and so I'd have 6 things. My dog is probably going to be really sick, and 3 of my friends were just in an accident, or they will be. And I would. So let me tell you something. That 6 steps is we're entirely ready. How do you know? I'm glad that I had kind of sponsorship that asked me a lot of questions. So how do you think you're going to know when you're entirely ready? And there's a simple answer, but it's pretty deep. And it's like, when I don't have a better idea. Because I won't. I will not have a better idea for invading your privacy. You know what? It's one of those things where there's not a right way to do a wrong thing. There's not. I hated that stuff. And guess what? On the honesty thing, because those were 2 glaring ones that I'm just using an example. And I would say, this will ruin your day. A half-truth is a whole lie. Yeah. And I called it exaggerating. When I stopped calling it exaggerating, when I stopped calling it observing, I wanted God to, please take these. I don't want to be a liar. And that happened. And then that 7th step is like, humbly ask for Him to take away our shortcomings. Wow. There's no money involved. There's no, I'm being serious. It's like, if I really want somebody to do, I didn't know how. I never had a relationship that I didn't try to buy you in time or money or something. And certainly this is the first time, but it continues to be true that I know. And again, I wish I could just want to say what she said, what she said, what she said. Because it's like, God already loves me. God already thinks I'm precious. Right? I don't have to do anything for those character defects to be removed. Okay? And then, I'm probably close, right, John? Yeah. Okay, so I just want to tell you, this was something to sum it up for me. If I were inviting you all to lunch at my house on Monday, and I'm actually not, but if I were doing that, I got to tell you, there'd be trash, because there would be paper plates and I don't, and we'd cater or something, because I don't cook. But think about that, and I'm being serious for a second. There would be a lot of trash, but it wouldn't all be my trash. And I was the one, somebody said it was all my trash, or I wasn't even there. I don't think I was there. I didn't know how to live in the middle. This is alcoholism. This is life on life's terms. So if I just handed out trash bags and said, here you go, come on, put your trash in. That's the 4th step. Put your trash in. Okay? The 5th step to me was take it to the curb. Anybody ever going, it's not my turn? Yeah, I got rights. Because, and when I'm feeling that way, it sounds like I'm being silly, but when I'm feeling that way, I know something's going on. There's something much deeper than I don't want to take it the 12 feet out to the curb. So the 5th step to me is get that trash out of the house where it is not needed and where you don't have to reach back. Because I believe the 6th step, I believe the 6th step is leaving it on the curb. Sometimes that trash, but what if I really do let go of jealousy and then somebody cheats? What if? So I could see myself going back out at night. But let me tell you about the 7th step. The trash man cometh. Let me tell you, and I gotta say this. My trash gets picked up on Tuesday mornings. Way too early. Okay? And I hear that trash truck. I hear it, right? And I have never one time had, Miss Burkholder, I'm the trash man. That's the trashiest trash we have ever seen, and we're not taking it. Sounds crazy, right? But think about this, my sweet friends. I came with some trash in my soul, in my heart. But what if you knew about this? What if you knew about that? What if I tell you about what I said, what I thought about saying to somebody at my first meeting? How would you put your arms around me then with that kind of trash? Trash man cometh. God has never knocked on my heart or my soul and said, sorry. Anything about anything, because I know I'm not alone in this. That you come in with something that you but what about that? And the trash man cometh. How do I know? Remember those parents that I just despised into indifference? I didn't care. I didn't think about them, right? My daddy was in the hospital in May of 1988. And for the first time, I think in my life, I looked him in the eye and I said, I love you, Daddy. Because my sponsor said, go do that. It's the only reason. And then the next day I touched him. And then they wanted me to touch him and tell him that I loved him. And on Christmas Day, in 1988, thank you. In 88, the last words on Christmas Day, at 4 o'clock, my daddy went home. And the last words we spoke were, I love you more than you'll ever know. Now, see, that's because I humbly asked for God to take my arrogance and my behavior around them and use me for good somewhere. Well, then, guess what? I had 12 more years, because your sponsor's never satisfied. So for 12 years, every time I saw my mama, every time I put my arms around her and said, I love you, Mama. I love you, Mama. And in November of 2000, my mother was in the hospital, and I had a commitment. And she kept saying, you got a commitment. I'm going, I don't want to go, Mama. She said, but you have a commitment. You told me commitment's doing what you said you would do, right? And you got to go get on that airplane. And I realize I'm sitting up in the bed with her, and one of my greatest whines used to be something real intelligent like, I don't even know if my mother rocked me when I was a baby. Right? God gave me that memory. You know why He gave me the memory? Because I was up in the middle of my mother's hospital bed, and she had her head on my shoulder. And I was rocking her. I don't know how to think of you more than me. But you do that 6th and 7th step where it's God's business and it's God's in complete control. I said to her, do you want to sit in the chair? I know I got to go, Mama. And I knelt in front of her. 7th step is about humility, the ability to stand up and the willingness to kneel down. And I knelt down before my mama and I looked up and I said, have I told you today how glad I am that you are my mama? She went, yeah, I know you got to go. And 5 hours later, got off an airplane and the cardiologist put their phone up to her ear and I could say goodbye. No unfinished business. Now be careful if you do this. Because if you work 6 and 7, you're going to forget to remember. You're going to forget to remember that they didn't come to your graduation. You're going to forget to... You got to be careful. I just want to be fair and warn. But the trash man cometh. If you're entirely ready to let the power that you found in the 2nd step and turned over into His care in the 3rd step, and you told the truth. You told the truth. And then you don't go, take those things, you and me, we're good. No. Because that's how I live my whole life on the surface. And because of you, the trash man cometh.